Welcome to the first phase of the IT project management lifecycle, the identification phase. In this video, we will walk you through the major activities and the deliverables involved in this phase. Let's start by having an overview, understanding the objectives of this phase. Typically, a project is sponsored by an individual who identifies a project-worthy need or opportunity. This phase involves evaluating and deciding if a proposed project should be undertaken based on the studying of factors like costs, benefits, risks, and etc. This phase is initiated by the project sponsor, who generates the need of an IT project. The sponsor is responsible for the project proposal, or sometimes referred to as a business case. It is a document that describes what needs to be done, why is the project worth doing, and the overall strategies that enable the project to be accomplished. Generally, a project proposal contains contents like the statement of need that describes the purpose of the project. This could be a business problem being solved or an opportunity for an improvement from a customer's perspective. Cost estimate of various possible solutions, along with a recommendation in the end. A high-level time frame of the project that lists out the major milestones of the project, which covers possibly only the start and end of the project, and other known and foreseeable events. And a list of risks to which the project will be exposed. Although the project proposal is the responsibility of the project sponsor, the preparation is often a combined effort of the sponsor, business analyst, and other related parties. Sometimes, the business analyst is the one who writes the project proposal. So once the proposal is written, the project sponsor evaluates it to ensure the project costs and benefits are weighed before a commitment of resources is made and that the project to be taken will create value to the organization. If unfortunately the proposal failed to justify the project sponsor will cancel the project, and that's the end of the story. If the proposal is approved, this ends the identification phase and begins the initiation phase. Let's have a look at the activities and deliverables of this phase. Cost-benefit analysis, which is the assessment of cost and benefits related to each solution. Risk assessment, to assess the risks associated with the project. A project with high risks may imply a higher chance that it will end with a failure, which is a factor to consider in approving the project proposal. Initial project complexity assessment, to determine the complexity of the project by answering a questionnaire. This process helps you understand not only the scale of project but also the readiness of the team in conducting the project. We will go over it later on. Develop project proposal, which is an important document of this phase. Finally, the project sponsor decides or denies the project proposal. These are the deliverables output from these activities. Let's go through the activities now. Cost-benefit analysis is the estimation of the total cost and the possible profits to be derived from a project through the adoption of different solutions. Cost-benefit analysis begins with the identification of possible solutions based on the project description, statement of business need, and business objectives. Identify a range of solutions that can be considered to address the identified need. And for each possible solution, identify its costs and benefits. Cost analysis must include both one-time and ongoing cost, which is also known as recurring cost. One-time costs are also known as capital expenses, which are not incurred on a regular basis, and once incurred, they give long-term benefits. On the other hand, ongoing costs are regular costs that incurred on a regular basis. Examples of one-time costs include facilities, equipment, hardware, software, training, and personnel. Examples of ongoing costs include the maintenance cost of system, which is often counted on an annual basis, security cost, data storage service, ongoing customer technical support, and etc. Once you've identified the cost items, estimate the cost required for each item for each possible solution. And then we come to benefit analysis. There are two kinds of benefits, tangible and intangible. Tangible benefits are benefits that can be measured and quantified. Typically, it refers to a reduction in cost and an increase in potential revenue. Intangible benefits are non-quantifiable improvements like risk, ease of use, brand equity, and etc. To evaluate the intangible benefits of possible solutions, a weighted evaluation will be performed. Firstly, identify the criteria as needed. In this example, we have enhanced the user experience, increased customer satisfaction, compliance, and brand equity. Then, choose a weighting between 0 and 100% for each of the criteria. Make sure the total weighting is 100%. Then, rate each solution between 1 and 5 for each criteria, with 1 as the lowest rating, 5 as the highest. The weighted average rating for each solution will be obtained. Based on the cost and benefits analysis, recommend a solution. State why the preferred option was chosen by summarizing its benefits and costs, and explaining why the benefits outweigh the costs involved. You should also state assumptions that have been made in choosing the preferred option, and outline the business process changes required to adopt the solution. The second activity, risk assessment, which is performed to identify project risks. The benefits of the proposed project will be judged to be worth the risks involved in undertaking it. Projects always carry risks, that is, uncertainty. Typically, there are two main sources of risks. The first source is about dealing with something new, to adopt new technologies, to work with new partners, and to apply new processes or working procedures. Very often, new implies uncertainty, which indicates the likely presence of risk. The other common source of risk is dependencies, availability of resource, the need to integrate with another system, and the need of stakeholders' commitment, and etc. We will go through some good examples of project risks here, and several common yet poor examples of risks in the next slide. Here are the good ones. Have a look at the first example. The new system may not be compatible with the old CRM. This risk points out the possible problem clearly, is specific, clear, and have no ambiguity. Risks like this one helps decision makers determine the consequence of the risk. And if it's decided that the project will be undertaken, the team can identify the strategies and actions to resolve and mitigate the risk. Here are several poor examples of risks. The first one, inaccurate cost estimate. This is only a statement, or perhaps something that had happened or happening. No matter what, it's not a risk. A risk must identify the uncertainty that led to the risk. The project may run out of budget. This is again a statement that describes a possible project outcome. It doesn't describe any risk. By reading this statement, we have no idea about what circumstances the project would run out of budget. No one can derive meaningful action or make any decision just by reading this statement. Besides the identification of project risks, risk assessment also involves the studying of security considerations. You need to provide a brief summary of the impacts and concerns related to IT security, such as passing information between systems, authentication, and etc. Initial project complexity classification. As we said in the previous video, there is no one-size-fits-all when it comes to project management. Very often, projects with bigger investment, higher expectation, and larger customer base are considered to be more complex and require more attention in project management. But these are just some factors. In the IT project management framework, there is a classification mechanism that helps identify your project's complexity, and we will talk about it in a minute. By knowing the level of complexity of a project, you can determine the activities required to perform. Let's say if the project is about developing a simple tic-tac-toe game, it may seem a bit overkill to perform management activities for budget, procurement, staffing resources, and etc. And when some activities are not required, the related process deliverables will be skipped as well. We have a project complexity questionnaire that helps you identify your project's complexity. By answering a set of complexity questions, a total score along with a classification of project complexity will be obtained. Listed here are the factors that constitute the assessment of project complexity. Questions in the questionnaire are set based on these factors. 3 factors weighed most heavily are the cost and funding of a project, project team's attributes and personnel commitment, and the project's impacts. This is how project complexity classification works. Project classification takes place in the identification phase and is revisited later in the initiation phase by the project manager. In the identification phase, classification is performed to identify project funding status and project risks. The project nature as identified through answering the questionnaire also gives the performing organization ideas in choosing the candidates of project manager. In the initiation phase, classification is revisited by the project manager. A decision of project scheme will be made accordingly. We will talk about it in the next video. Develop project proposal. Project proposal, or sometimes referred to as a business case, is a document that describes what needs to be done, why is the project worth doing, and the overall strategies that enable the project to be accomplished. By the end of the identification phase, the project sponsor evaluates the proposal and decide whether to approve it or not. If approved, the project is set to be identified. The initiation phase will then begin. If rejected, the project will be terminated. Here is the contents of a typical project proposal. Project summary. It provides a description of the project and the business needs it intends to fulfill. It describes the unmet need, demand for services, or opportunity identified underlying the need for an IT project. Description of project initiator and sponsor's roles and responsibilities. Project initiator is the person from whom the project idea originated. Project sponsor is the person who has the authority to overcome major obstacles to completing the project, which includes defining project goals, securing resources, and resolving conflicts. We will talk about their differences in a minute. Customers and final deliverables. The person and parties who will benefit from this project, as well as the end product to deliver. Project approach describes the strategies that enables the project to be planned, executed, and completed. Resource requirements. Identify the resources and skills required to complete this project. Project success criteria. The principles or standards used to determine or judge project success. Critical success factors. The factors that must be in place to ensure success of the proposed solution. Recommended solution. The solution recommended based on the cost-benefit analysis. Project risks overview. The risks to which the project will be exposed based on risk assessment. Project complexity assessment. A list of questions and answers of the project complexity questionnaire. The final 3 items are extracted from activities performed earlier, while the rest are newly entered. Let's go through the major items one by one. Project summary provides a description of the project and the business needs it intends to fulfill. It consists of 3 parts. Project description. An overview of the history behind this project. You may also include a description of requests made by the project sponsor underlying the need for an IT project. Statement of need or opportunity. Describe the purpose of the project. This could be a business problem being solved or an opportunity for an improvement from a customer's perspective. The business problem can be a question, issue, or situation pertaining to the business which needs to be answered or resolved. Business objectives. The desired result produced by a project that answers or resolves the business problem, define the specific business objectives of the project, and correlates them to the strategic initiatives or issues identified. Here are some examples of business objectives of a library management system. We have objectives like to support searching digital and electronic resources, reserving digital and electronic resources, SMS notification, and etc. Each objective should relate to at least one strategic initiative or business problem. Project initiator and project sponsor. Sometimes the two roles are played by the same person, especially when the projects are originated internally. However, it is not necessarily always the case. The role of a project initiator is to initiate a new project to fulfill someone's need. It is not a formal role. In fact, any person who suggests the need of a project is the project initiator. Such a role may not even have any responsibilities, nor involve actively throughout the project management lifecycle. Once the project has been initiated by the project's initiator, project sponsor take the role to assign the project to the project manager, and to support the project continuously until the project is complete. Project sponsor has the authority to overcome major obstacles to completing the project, which includes defining project goals, securing resources, and resolving conflicts. He or she approves the project proposal and the project charter, and provides the formal sign-off for acceptance of a project's final deliverables. Customers. You need to identify who will benefit from this project, including the customers and beneficiaries of the effort. Customer is the person or organization who will pay for the final deliverables that satisfies an unmet need. Beneficiary is a person or organization who will benefit from the value created by the final deliverable. He, she, or they may not be the one who pay for it. Final deliverables are the key outputs of the project, expected to be ready by the end of the project. Typically, a deliverable is a software product, an IT system, a major piece of system function, or even a well-defined process, etc. You need to identify the resources and skills required to complete the project. Here are some examples. Funding. Estimate the funding required for the project. You may reference the result of cost and benefit analysis performed in the identification phase. Describe how customers will be involved in the project. Facilities. Describe the facilities required for the project. For example, conference room, data center. Equipment. Describe the hardware needed for the project, such as printer, scanner. Software tools. Describe the software requirements for the project. Although detailed resource requirements will be identified in subsequent phases, it is important for the project proposal to include the level of detail sufficient for the authorizing party to make sound judgments about the appropriation of resources. Project success criteria are the principles or standards used to determine or judge project success. While it seems obvious that to deliver what the customer wants on time and within budget will be considered success, in practice there are usually way more criteria in determining project success. One customer may be willing to sacrifice features for a quicker availability of solution. Another may see the completeness and stability as the key criteria, and is willing to extend the project period to achieve this. The customers in both cases get what they want. Both are considered a success. Critical success factors are the factors that must be in place to ensure success of the proposed solution. They are the conditions, capabilities, events, circumstances that contribute to project success. The purpose of identifying critical success factors is to ensure that the project success criteria defined can be met. Here are some examples. Whether the team can generate innovative and creative ideas that the user would look for. Whether the team has the required skills in testing the end product. Let's say if you are going to develop an Android application. Are all testing resources capable in configuring a test environment and conducting a thorough testing? Are the stakeholders willing to commit? A lack of stakeholder commitment may lead to a lot of rework. Is patent protection unnecessary in securing the long-term success of the project? Project success criteria and critical success factors are often used interchangeably, but they refer to two different concepts. Here are their definitions. Project success criteria are the principles or standards that will be applied to determine or judge project success. Only when a project can meet the criteria is said to be a success. Critical success factors are the conditions, events, and circumstances that contribute to project success. Those are the factors that will lead to a project success. Before we carry on, let's have a quick summary of the identification phase. You have learned the objective of the identification phase, evaluating and deciding if a proposed project should be undertaken. There are four major activities: cost-benefit analysis, which is the estimation of the total cost and the possible profits to be derived from a project through the adoption of different solutions. The result of analysis would be a recommendation of solution. Risk assessment, to assess the risks associated with the project. Initial project complexity classification. Know the project's complexity by answering a questionnaire. By the end of this phase, a project proposal will be developed. The project sponsor evaluates it and decides whether to accept it or reject it. If the proposal is approved, the identification phase ends and the initiation phase begins. See you again in the next video. Goodbye.